The dog wasn't watching the food. Nobody noticed that until it was almost too late. There is a specific behavior that golden retrievers learn in homes where mealtimes happen on a schedule. They learn where the food falls. They learn which family member drops the most. They learn the geometry of a high chair from the floor, where to sit, which angle guarantees the best access to whatever comes over the tray edge. In a home with a 10-month-old in a high chair, this is a learned science. It is also the most reasonable possible explanation for a dog who sits beside a high chair every morning and stares. Jana Whitfield believed this explanation for 5 weeks. She was a neonatal nurse. She had spent 7 years in a level 3 NICU. She was not a person who missed things. She was also the mother of Cora, 10 months old, and the owner of Honey, a 4-year-old golden retriever who had positioned herself beside Cora's high chair at every meal since Cora had graduated from bottle to solid food. Jana had looked at Honey sitting beside that chair, had looked at her gold eyes fixed on the tray, and had thought, waiting for the sweet potato to fall. She had thought this every morning for 5 weeks, because it was the right thought. Dogs wait for food to fall from high chairs. This is what they do. Except, Jana was feeding Cora on a Wednesday morning oatmeal with mashed banana, a combination that produced a particular expression of infant uncertainty that Jana had photographed twice. Honey was in her position, the position Jana had stopped thinking about. And Jana looked down, really looked, and realized Honey's eyes were not on the tray. They were on Cora's face, her chest, the small rise and fall of it, the dog's eyes moving in a slow rhythm that matched, and Jana's brain did something that nurses' brains do when a pattern that has been invisible suddenly becomes visible. The rhythm of Cora's breathing. She was timing the baby's breaths. Jana did not move for a moment. Then she looked at Cora. Cora was eating. Cora was 10 months old and eating oatmeal and doing all the things a 10-month-old does at breakfast. Jana picked up her phone. She opened the voice memo app. She did not know exactly why. She recorded Honey sitting beside the high chair for 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Then she called her husband, who was at work. She described what she'd seen. He said, "She's just watching the food." Jana said, "She isn't. She's watching how fast she's breathing." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "She can't know that." Subscribe now, because what happened the following Tuesday changed how this family understood everything Honey had been doing for 5 weeks. Jana is not by nature an alarmist. 7 years in a NICU had calibrated her very precisely to the difference between a concern and an emergency. What she had was a concern. She called Cora's pediatrician that afternoon, described the breathing pattern she'd been watching since the Wednesday observation, said, "I don't know if this is significant, but the dog is tracking it, and I've been a nurse long enough to pay attention to that." The pediatrician referred them to a pediatric cardiologist as a precaution. Dr. Vivian Park, pediatric cardiology, ran the ECG on a Tuesday morning. She was unhurried, thorough, the kind of specialist who explains each step as she performs it. She placed the leads on Cora's small chest, looked at the screen again, and said, not urgently, but specifically, "Tell me about the dog." Jana said, "She sits beside the high chair at every meal. I thought she was watching for dropped food. Then I realized she was watching how Cora breathes." Dr. Park said, "How long has she been doing this?" Jana said, 5 weeks. Dr. Park said, "Cora has a cardiac arrhythmia. It is intermittent and mild, and in most infants this age would go undetected for considerably longer. It affects her respiratory rate during feeding, because the increased cardiac demand during eating triggers the irregular rhythm. The dog has been watching her breathe. She has been watching the symptom that the arrhythmia produces for 5 weeks. Has your dog ever been watching something you were looking past? Tell us below. These stories deserve to be heard. The condition was treatable. A medication adjustment brought Cora's rhythm into normal parameters within 3 weeks. Dr. Park's projection shared in a follow-up consultation was that without the referral, the arrhythmia would likely have presented clinically, by which she meant symptomatically, at some point in Cora's first year. She said that presentations of this type, when they arrive clinically rather than diagnostically, are not typically dangerous in otherwise healthy infants, but they are frightening, and the intervention pathway is more complex. She looked at Jana and said, "Your training helped you notice the dog," and the dog was watching something that needed watching. Golden retrievers were originally bred to retrieve waterfowl for hunters in the field. The breed developed an extraordinary sensitivity to the small movements and rhythms of animals, the way a bird adjusts its weight before flight, the slight change in a swimming animal's stroke when it tires. Translated into a domestic setting, this sensitivity becomes something else. A dog that monitors breathing patterns, a dog that can tell from the floor beside a high chair that the 10-month-old above her is breathing differently during meals than she breathes at rest. Honey had been tracking a cardiac irregularity from the kitchen floor for 5 weeks. She had not been waiting for sweet potato. Every guardian deserves to be seen, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If these stories matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Cora is 14 months now. She laughs at everything. She has 3 teeth and strong opinions about bananas. At breakfast every morning, she sits in her high chair and throws pieces of oatmeal at the kitchen floor with the specific glee of someone who has recently discovered physics. Honey sits beside the chair. Her eyes still move between the tray and the baby's face, between the falling food and the small, steady rise and fall of her breathing. But now her tail moves slowly, once in each direction, each time she checks, like something that has been watching carefully for a long time and has decided at last that what it sees is good.